States across the country are looking past the pandemic to try and plan their businesses reopening. Some, like Florida and Texas, are already partially back up and running, hoping to buoy local economies and mitigate the financial damage of the coronavirus shutdowns. Joining us right now to talk about this is Barry Sternlicht. He is the chairman and CEO of Starwood Capital Group, which has $60 billion in assets under management. He's also chairman and CEO of SH Hotels and Resorts. And Barry, it's great to see you. How you doing?
Good, Becky. How are you? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Let's talk a little bit about what you're seeing, at least in the hotel business, in the leisure business. At this point, where are things in terms of the reopening, and how are consumers feeling, you think, about getting back out and traveling?
Well, I think, the economy is clearly picking up. I think what you're seeing is roadside hotels are doing okay, where people are driving. That's picking up first. It's not group. There's no international travel involved. That will be the last of the hotel markets to open, anything that's really international travel. We have to get back to that, and we can talk about my thoughts on how we do that. But so like we opened a hotel in Jacksonville on the beach a couple weekends ago, and we ran nearly 60% occupancy on the weekend because people are desperate to get out of their houses. And I think you're seeing actually the same thing in malls, which has actually been surprising to me. And I was wondering why traffic in malls is up. Two things. The surveys really show consumers, after they get out of their house, they actually want to go somewhere. They want to go to a mall. I was actually surprised to see that. And they have all the time in the world. So they're home. They've gone to Stop and Shop in their Publix down in Florida. And now they're going to explore. It's like a flea market, a giant sale. And they want to go see find things to do. So the local mall is really important. It is interesting, and it's sort of not in order of what the questions you've asked me, but it's really important for some of these retail stores to get open. I really have never seen the difference between social distancing in a Walmart and social distancing in a limited store, the Gap or Abercrombie and Fitch. I mean, the small retailers should not be at such disadvantage to the nationals, the major nationals, your Costco's, and they're just as important to the local communities, because all those malls pay huge taxes to the local cities. And your lead-in story or lead-in headline was that New York City is seeing such a drop in property taxes. That's what happened when you keep everything shut. So, we can do social distancing in small outlets. You don't have to go to the Walmart to buy your gardening supplies. You can go to the local gardening store or the hardware store. Just because they're small doesn't mean they can't practice the same health benefits the way the large retailers can. In fact, maybe they'll be even more careful.
Hey, Barry, you mentioned that hotel that you opened in Jacksonville on the beach at 60% occupancy for the weekend. Where did you think occupancy levels would hit?
Like 30, 35. Every major hotel we have in the major gateway cities, Miami Beach, New York, Los Angeles, they're all closed. And with no signs of opening. I mean, Los Angeles, which isn't really having a bad experience per se, the mayor extended the shutdown for another 3 months, I think arbitrarily. Here in Miami, I think there's some issues with crowd control and international travel, but Miami can probably reopen. We're prepared to run these hotels. You might be curious, your investors might be curious, your listeners. We probably can break even at the property line with 35% occupancy. If you want us to cover debt service and real estate taxes and insurance, we're going to need occupancies to pass 50%, 60%. You might get there depending on this vaccine, the Moderna vaccine, or any of the dozens and dozens behind that by the end of the year. But air travel, I'm really delighted to see the airlines finally put mask requirements on, and they should do temperature checks. As soon as people have confidence, they're going to fly. I had some friends that were supposed to come out from California to Miami this weekend, and the two planes, there are only 2 flights, they were full. People do want to get on with it, especially the younger people, and they're tired of this, and I'm kind of in their camp. As long as those at risk stay home. So I think the nation needs to open, and I think the blue states that are really getting hammered, they happen to coincidentally be the places where the virus has been the worst. They need to get on with it too, and I'm glad to see New York beginning to open. We're anxious to open our offices, and we're attending our offices totally voluntary. But my guess is 25% of the people will stay home. They won't be comfortable, and the rest of the people will come to work, and we will social distance them, and we will get back to the business the way we knew it.
Hey, Barry. You guys obviously need to make some type of plans for the rest of the year and into 2021. And you've probably been the most aggressive or optimistic, I should say, about the timeline for all of this. You talked about the Moderna vaccine and even the end of the year. We could debate it. I think that's probably a little bit early in terms of that getting to people at scale. But the question I'd ask you is, so to the degree you're making investments or thinking about how the business is going to operate or how you're going to even deal with debt service over the next, you tell me how many months or longer you're sort of making your plans around.
Well, we're not your typical owner of assets, so we are fairly deep-pocketed. We have large funds. I'm more thinking about all my friends who own hotels and own other businesses and own office buildings, for example. I said on March 13th when I came on your show that I was fairly bullish, and I think I look like a crazy person, but I gave you 5 reasons. 1, interest rates were low and will stay low, which they have. It's a cut for businesses, a tax cut for consumers, oil prices down, tax cut for consumers, tax cut for businesses. We would have overstimulation. Probably the biggest worry I have right now is we go hog wild and bananas. It's so interesting. There's about 100,000, it's 90,000 deaths. Assume it's 100,000 deaths and $6 trillion. That's $60 million per death. And if we would just pay people, let's say we give people a $1,000 incentive, even $500 for signing up for contact tracing, like we can do instantly if the leadership of this country decides to mandate it. We're at war. I said it was World War III for 90 days. 90 days has another 3 weeks to go. It'd be June 13th. Why? It's war. We're at war with a virus. So why don't we have mandate contact tracing? We'll even pay you for doing it. $500 per person. That's $150 billion versus the $3 trillion Democrat stimulus package. Once we can track the virus, we can deal with this virus. That's only $150 billion bucks. That's what, 5% of the $3 trillion? At least there'll be a return on the investment. We just can't. I'm empathetic. Obviously, I'm involved with Robinhood. We help the poor. I totally understand this has been disproportionately hitting those most in need. We need to help them, probably not with $600 on top of the $300, because we have created some disincentives. We are worried about hiring some of our hotel workers back because there are other things. They're making more money doing less work today. That's a good idea, a little overzealous. The overstimulation could be real. It's on a global scale. It's not just us. We're buying ETFs today, I think. I mean, I'm not sure why we're buying ETFs. The NASDAQ's up on the year. The Dow's or the S&P's down 9%. That seems like maybe you needed it 3 months ago, but you don't need it today. And I think you should then you have it's a flu. We've proved it's a flu. In 50 of the 52 states, the R0 is down, is negative, is below 1. There's only 2 states in the nation where it's above, it's still red, and they're Minnesota and Maine. I mean, we don't hear about that often in the press, but we are getting through this. And last one is, of course, the medical breakthroughs. And if it's not Moderna, Mike Milken the other night said there are 100 different vaccines being tested around the world. The odds of none of them working, I'm not going to say that's going to be very high. So it really is a question of the slope from here to that, to when people feel really comfortable. Contact tracing could help us in the interim, temperature testing, wearing masks, all the things everyone's heard about. But in general, we can get through this. But if we wait too long, if these states stay shut too long, it could be irreversible damage. I mean, these small businesses will never open. And that will be a shame because the only guy left on Main Street was a small restaurant guy. Everyone else has gone online. So I don't think the main streets of America ever look the same. And I don't know. I think people will really want to come back and shop physically to some extent because it's a social experience. Like they didn't have to go to the movie. They could just watch the movie on their iPad. But I think human behavior and what I've seen in my travels, I've been to the west side of the state of Florida. I was in northern Florida. They're out and about. They're doing their own thing. And they're keeping respectful distances at the beach in Naples. And in Georgia, they're being careful. But I think we actually don't have much of a choice. The country can't survive being locked up. And we don't have enough money in the world to actually pay for an entire economy. And in the meantime, other nations are moving forward. We have to get our manufacturing back. One really positive thing that's going to come about this, which a friend told me, is we used to have what's called just-in-time inventory, and now we're going to have just-in-case inventory. So just-in-case inventory means we are going to bring back key pharmaceuticals, key equipment we might need for a pandemic. It actually could be the manufacturing revolution that the Trump administration has sought to do, and that could be a long-term significant benefit of the situation. I think people are surprised at just how dependent we are on foreign supply chains, and you'll see, I think, a lot of effort made by companies to basically bring back critical materials to the country, and that's good because some of these small shop owners are going to have to be retrained for new jobs.
Hey, Barry, yesterday the president was meeting with representatives of the restaurant industry, a lot of big restaurant chains and others. He kept saying that he thinks what they need from here on out is deductibility, to be able to deduct all kinds of expenses that come through this. It seemed to me that most of them were pushing back and saying, no, they need an extension of PPP, more money to be paid out. Where do you come down on that?
They need confidence. They need consumer confidence, so their people come back and can sit outside or sit inside. Restaurants won't work with 25% occupancy inside. Their rents would have to be cut in half, and that would be a rolling stone into oblivion. I think the PPP program has been a very good program. Even down the street, I see small shops that have reopened. One restaurant right down the block, we were told was going to close, and it reopened. So. Again, it depends on when they open. When they really open, South Florida, Miami-Dade is unique. It's been a hot spot, so we're not open. But if you go to Broward or Palm Beach, you find people out and about, and they're not fully open either. But I think this contact tracing is a really big deal. I mean, having the ability to know that you've been with somebody who had this and then self-quarantining yourself could be just a game changer in getting that slope fast. So I think I don't think it's about tax deductions. I think it's about deductibility. That's you need revenue, and you need customers.
Right.
And to get customers, you need employees and materials. So the PPP is a good program.